All right. Welcome back to another episode of Between the Sheets, What Lives Between the Pages. I'm your host, Dorothy O'Dell. I am super excited. We just finished the Rose City Romance Conference, and I met some incredible authors. If you saw last week's episode, you see some of the authors that I did meet and some of the books that I did get. I have to say, it was absolutely, for somebody who is a romance reader, this was one of those events that you have to go to. So, and I know they have them all over the world and all over the province, wherever you're from. And so, just I highly encourage you to look it up, see where these events are in your area, and go check it out. So, with that, though, I would like to bring to the stage Frances Everly. Welcome.
Hi, it's a
So,
pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here because you are one of the amazing authors that I did meet. And it's funny, your VA, I'm assuming it was your VA that was with you on the weekend. She was totally hilarious. I said, "Hey, can I take a picture of your book, of your booth?" And there was this particular book there. And I said, "Oh, well, that looks very interesting." And she says, "Here, take a picture with it, with you." And I'm like, "Okay, fine, sold. I'll take the book." So I'm not usually sold that easily, but she was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was my sister actually. I put her
I'm
to work that weekend.
you know, family needs to help. So before we get into your books and things like that, tell us a little bit about who you are, what makes you tick, and some of the things that you like to do besides writing.
So I am a mother of two. I also work in healthcare full time, and I have enjoyed writing for as long as I can remember. I first picked up a book, I remember in first grade writing stories and needing help to write them because I couldn't write very well. Um, And it's just in the last 5 years or so that I've actually, I've challenged myself to start finishing things. And once I did that, I challenged myself to publish something and see where that went. And now I'm kind of addicted.
I love that. And so, what made you decide to become an author, though? Because did you just wake up one day and say, "Oh yeah, I want to be the next Nora Roberts," or
Honestly, like I said, I've always enjoyed writing, and even like as far back as my high school yearbook photo, beside it, I say I want to be a novelist. Um, but what got me started with actually publishing and finishing things. Well, one thing was that I met one of my idols, which is Susanna Kearsley. And she said, "You're not a writer, you're not an author or a writer unless you're actually writing something." I'm like, that's very true. Like, you can want to be an author, but you're never going to be if you don't actually write something. But once you start writing, you are a writer, you are an author, and that really struck home with me. And then she talked about how she had, I think it was her sister, um, had challenged her to write something and then had challenged her to finish it. And that's what got me thinking about the challenges. But what really got me started after that, one of my characters wouldn't shut up. So my first book that I published, that I finished and published, is Hawk's Heart. And my main character, he's a Hollywood heartthrob, and he would not shut up. This might sound crazy, but I'm sure that many authors will understand what I am talking about. I'm not crazy. I
I
promise.
love that.
Maybe a little, but not for this. Like, my mind, my daydreams, like everything, that's all I could think about was this story. Like, what if this was happening, or what if that was happening, or he kind of formed in my head and he wouldn't shut up. And so I started writing, and then I finished it for the first time ever. I'd never finished a story before, and it was fun. I loved it. And yeah, then the challenges got to my mind. I'm like, okay, so I've completed one challenge, I've finished something. Now I'm going to try and publish it.
Which do you think? So, what, in your opinion, what is the hardest thing from beginning to end to publishing to getting your work out there in front of people, what would you say has been the most challenging part of your journey?
Oh, honestly, the marketing. Like the whole journey is challenging. Just figuring out what you want to write and how you want to write it and the story itself and the plot. That is challenging on its own. But afterwards, there's this whole area of marketing that I know nothing about. And that has been the biggest challenge. I've figured out everything else, how to format my books and design my covers and all of that. But the marketing completely eludes me.
It's funny you say that because this show is kind of brand new, but I have another show and I've had authors on there of different genres, and they all say the same thing: marketing has got to be one of the hardest things ever.
Yeah.
um, I'm an author myself. I don't speak about it a lot, and I know I should,
Oh,
but
good
I
for
don't.
you.
I'm not a romance author. I wrote my memoir of overcoming a bunch of life challenges. It's funny because I sat and I wrote that book within less than a month, and by the time I had it to edit to the first editor, just to proofread it, make sure it made sense and things like that, I would say it only took me 3 months from that to there. But then getting it out and getting the word out has been the hardest part,
Hmm.
in my opinion, because you're right. Like, I'm a bookkeeper by trade. So how do you go from numbers to this, right?
Hmm.
Was my thing. And like yourself, you said you're a nurse, right? In nursing.
I'm not a nurse. I work in
Oh,
healthcare. I'm a
oh, and
therapist.
healthcare. Sorry. So from healthcare to this, but I I absolutely love it that that didn't stop you. You've just figured it out. So are you self-published as well? I didn't even look at that.
I am self-published.
Oh, I love that. So where can people find your books?
So my books are actually pretty much, you can get the ebook just about everywhere. And then the paperbacks, you can find some of them on Chapters, and they're all on Amazon.
Okay, cool. I didn't check out your website yet. Or maybe I did. No, I don't think yours was. But can you get the books on your website as well?
There is a link that will lead you to the different ebook distributors. I haven't
Okay.
figured out the whole shipping thing because it is so expensive to ship a book. It's like $20, and I don't want to charge people like
Yeah.
almost double just to
Yeah.
ship them their book. It just doesn't seem fair. So I'm trying to figure that out so that I can set it up and sell the paperbacks online as well.
I I totally get you. Somebody bought one of my books off my website, but they were from, was it Asia? Somewhere in Asia. Well, it cost me $23 to send the book. The book was only 15.99. So in
Yeah.
other words, I like lost out, but I thought, you know what? At least it gets the book out there. And I think learning that part of it is probably one of the hardest parts, of becoming an author, other than, like you said, marketing. And so I have to ask, when you're writing, is there anything special that you do? Like, do you have like special music going, or any type of notebook that you like, or do you just do everything on your laptop, or what's your choice that you like doing?
Well, I always have a cup of Earl Grey tea with me because that's my favorite. And I don't know. Sometimes I sit on my couch or in my office here. It's an old guest room that I converted in my basement to my office now. And I don't know, I just write. Sometimes I have music on. I have to have something playing in the background, whether it's music or a TV show that I've watched a million times. So I hear it in the background, but I don't have to pay attention to it.
Right.
Um, Actually, when wrote Hawk's Heart, I watched the Hunger Games movies religiously, all four of them, constantly throughout the whole time that I was writing because I it was like I had to watch those movies
Mhm.
um just to get the story flowing. It was weird. So like each book has its own process, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Because sometimes I need to listen to music. Like I wrote Hope or Ruin, and that's a rock star romance. And so all I did was listen to Our Lady Peace through it, the whole book.
It's funny because I've seen them in concert, so that
I've
is
seen them several
hilarious.
times.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my husband's favorite bands. That's the only reason why we went. And actually, we're just a couple weeks away from our next 3 Days Grace. We're gonna
Oh
go see
yeah.
that at
Oh,
Finger 11.
nice. Yeah,
Yes,
our next one, I think we're seeing Bush and the Matthew Good Band. So that'll be fun.
that is fun. Wow, love it, love it. So, how many books in total have you written?
I think I have 12 out now.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. It's funny because I was talking to a lot of authors and publishers on the weekend, and they said, as long as you can get past three, once you get past three, it's like it just continues to go on. I think it was that lady that worked for the narration place. She was I was talking to her, and so I I guess once you start one, it's like a tattoo. Once you start one, you want to keep going.
It's addictive. It really is.
And how do you come up with the stories? Like it just comes to you or
Exactly.
okay.
I honestly, with Pucking Promises, last year for Rose City Romance, I did one of the professional consults with one of the editors that they had there. And I had to have like a mock-up of about 5,000 words or something for them to review and go over with me. And that was actually Pucking Promises. And I just whipped something up and gave it to them with no intention of like ever completing it. But then I felt like I had to because like now I've got this going and I have to finish it now. I need to see where this is gonna go.
Well, and here it is. It's published and it's out there. And it's a book that I picked up. And I have to say, okay, so I was going to do your little teaser, like your Easter egg. I was going to do it, but I have yet to go back and finish that. I won't. And it's funny because you are the only author after, I don't know, thousands of romance novels. You are the only author that has given me an Easter egg.
Oh,
So at first I'm like, what the hell is this underlying thing all about? Right. I just like for those listening. So Francis does give like, and you did say it somewhere. I don't remember where
in
I
the
saw it.
dedication page, I
Oh,
think.
okay, right, in the dedication. But then I loved because I had it. You did autograph it for me. So I love your message there. But you're the only author that I have ever seen that Easter egg hunt. And so I was gonna do it. And then I'm like, because when I came back for that Saturday home, like I was tired, I was exhausted, and I'm like, I just want to read the book, and then I'll go back and figure out what the message was. So I have not done that yet, but I binge read this entire book. I would say I got home at I want to say close to 4 o'clock that day, and before I went to bed at 10, it was done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, I love
yeah.
hearing that.
I had my husband cook dinner because I'm like, I'm not cooking dinner. And I read it, and I have to say it was absolutely phenomenal. I love the you know, I'm not going to I don't want to spoil it, but the fact that, he makes his promises and he keeps his promises. To me, I think no matter what kind of story that you're reading, you can learn something. So whether
Hmm.
that's romance or whatever, and when somebody keeps their promises, to me, I think that's just sexy as all get out.
Right?
So if you're a man actually listening to this and you promised your wife something, fulfill it because that's better than anything you could give her in the bedroom.
Right?
Well,
And
maybe
the
not.
other point was it doesn't matter if you keep the promise today. Even if you
Right.
keep it like tomorrow or 5 years down the road, you've still kept it.
That's right. That's right. And so I have to get Dare Me because Dare Me was actually the first book in this series, but I didn't know that. And I saw
That's
the cover.
so they're just interconnected, so the storylines aren't so you don't have to read them together or sequentially or anything like that. But
Right.
yeah.
Oh, but if you're a freak like
I
me, you need
Yeah,
to. Because as a reader, okay, so the worst thing as a reader is to finding out that you buy book 5 or 6 in a 20-part series, and now you have to go get all the first 6 of them because like that number 7 was really good.
Yeah.
Like I am that reader that will hunt them down, and then like I have this other series that I read by one of the other authors that was there. I binge read 3 of her books.
Oh,
I'm like, wait, when's Evan's story coming out? She goes, not till next year. I'm like, you can't do that to me. Like I don't know. And it's not like I don't have anything to do, but um I I deal with numbers all day long, and then I deal with mental health on top of that, like after hours, right? So with veterans and that. So life can get very heavy, right? And so
yes.
I use romance novels as like my escape or like my fun, like just to decompress. Because when I read, I don't know about anybody else, but when I read somebody's book, it's like I'm picturing that I'm there and it's like a movie playing in my head. So
Yes.
that's how I read. And so for me, it's like a movie, but between the page, like between sheets.
Yeah. That's exactly how I read as well, and how I write. Like I've got to see it in order to write it. But then
Right.
sometimes I see it and I'm like, okay, how do I get that onto the page? So it's like an extra little challenge.
Well, and that's okay. So that is challenging because I promised, I have a cousin that passed away 2 years of cancer, and she
Sorry
was
to
more
hear
like a,
that.
oh, thank you. She's my dad's cousin, but she's more like a sister to me. And so
Hmm.
we have said there was this one summer that we don't talk about, but this one summer we have this campground out in Forest, Ontario, and I know some of the if you're from Ontario, you might know where that's from, but if you're from the States, you'll have no idea. So it's about an hour and a half ish away from where I'm currently living, and so my dad had this camper out there, and of course the guy next door. Well, I had a crush on him, and
Oh,
she ended up dating, we'll say dating him that summer. Well, she had no idea I had the crush. And anyways, so she got the goods and I got to stay at home and get drunk
aw.
and hear it. So anyways, doesn't matter. So and I had no idea. I didn't tell her, that I had the crush on this guy. And anyways, doesn't matter. She had one great wild summer, and I said, we should write a book about this because I feel like some days we were Thelma and Louise. And so we were supposed to write the book together, but then she died on me. So now I got to write it myself. And I told one of her sons, I said, I'm going to write this book eventually. I don't know when. But I said, it will not be a book that your kids can read.
Yes. That was one challenge that I came across when I announced that I had published a book. Everybody kept thinking it was a kid's book. I'm like, no, no, do not let your kids read this, please. It is not a children's book.
No, it's for the women out there that want to escape.
Yes. Yes. And that escape sometimes that's crucial, even just for our mental health, just to have that break.
Yeah.
I think we all need that sometimes.
Amen. Well, it's funny because at the age of 16, my dad's sister got me hooked on my first romance novel. That's back when Harlequin romance was hot and heavy. And, you used to get those, you join the club and you get four books a month. They
Oh,
send them
yeah,
to
I
you.
remember that one.
Right. So I decided that I was going to join this at the age of 16 after I came home one summer. I was babysitting for her. And she's just like, oh, here, read this, read this. She had stacks of these books in her living room. And she goes, oh, help yourself. So after babysitting her kids, we would sit out in she had this white couch. She would have her wine. I would have I don't know, I think it was a Diet Pepsi at the time. And we would sit there and spend our evening just reading the romance novels. So thanks to Aunt Colleen, I got hooked. And so, and it hasn't stopped. And the bookshelves behind me, well, there is some personal development in there, but majority of them are romance novels. And now that Kindle came out, I don't need it. I don't need another bookshelf, but
Oh, but you can't get signed copies on a Kindle.
that's true. That is true. I walked out of there this weekend, this past weekend, and I couldn't believe the amount of books I actually. I'm just like, what the hell? I'm here to support my Canadian authors,
And you
and
did.
my thank God my husband doesn't look at the Mastercard bill, but I'm like, oh, cash here, Mastercard here, whatever works, you know. But anyhow, so is your partner supportive of your writing career?
Yes, and sometimes no. He hates the time it takes me away from the family. So, like, when I'm trying to write and I'm horrible with deadlines, so I'm always like, I really need to get this done this weekend. I really need to get this done. It drives him crazy. But he's very supportive in when it's finished. He tries to help me with the marketing or give me ideas, and he'll help me at the book fairs. Sometimes he'll help me. Come and help me set up and stuff. So he's supportive in that way. Like with the writing, I don't think he quite gets it. But with the physical stuff, because he's a physical person, that he
Right.
gets and that he's more supportive with.
I love that. The amount of spouses that were there this past weekend, I don't remember that many being there last year, which
I
was
don't think there were that many that last year.
I was shocked. I even said to the guys, I'm like, that is really great of you to support your wife like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because kudos to you for doing that. And I had to be funny, and I said, so is he the person that gives you ideas for the scenes, right? Because depending on what book you read, they can be very spicy.
Yeah.
Um, and so, uh, and he just like perks up and she goes, yes. And I'm like, of course, that's the answer you're going to. So I have to ask then, what is your, like, when you are in it and you're writing one of those scenes, what do you think drives you through those scenes?
um, I don't really know how to answer that. I just my own imagination, really. I do a lot of reading and sometimes something I've read might inspire something that I want to write.
Right.
Yeah, that's an awkward question.
No. Hey, listen, I never know. Like, I didn't even have that plan to ask that. It was just one of those things that I'm like, I have to know, like, where do some people get their inspiration from? I interviewed a woman by the name of Lou Sutherland who wrote Delicious Surrender. She was at last year's event, and I said she's quite proud. She goes, yes, my husband is my inspiration. I love it. Right? I love it. I've never had somebody say, "Oh yeah, my boyfriend, my side piece." No, I'm kidding. Uh, if you go on TikTok lately, all it is, "Oh, I caught my husband on Tinder," right? And then
Oh,
they have this up, and I'm just like, that's. I don't know. It was just being funny, but I mean seriously, we get our inspiration, I think, from different places, and whatever motivates. Um, So, anyways, love it. So, what is next? Like, what's the next big project you have going?
so I do also write Romantasy, and I have a series that I've been working on for the last oh God, for forever, actually, when I think about it, because I started writing it before I had my kids, and my oldest is 12 now. Um, but I didn't start publishing it until 2022. I have the last book in that series that I'm working on right now, and I want to get that finished. And then I think I've got actually another romantasy series idea that struck me in the last few months. I'm like, okay, I need to write this too because these characters aren't shutting up. So I think I'm going to be focusing more on the romantasy for a bit. But I do have more ideas for like a hockey romance and for I'm actually thinking of a baseball romance too.
Ooh,
Yeah, so I think that'll be fun. Um, Something my husband does help me with is he used to play hockey.
I can
So
say.
when I've got a hockey question, I'm asking him. He pointed it out to me. I wrote seriously pucked and I had completely forgotten that he used to play hockey. So I did mess up some of the things um, in seriously pucked, and I freely admit it. And he turned to me and he said, "Why didn't you just ask me?" And I'm like, "Why would I?" And he's like, "Because I played hockey for years." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So when I wrote "Dare Me" and "Pucking Promises," I'm like, "Does this happen? Could this happen? What's this like?"
I was going to say, do you have a favorite hockey team? Is that why you decided to start with the hockey series?
Ah, yes. I have to go with my home team, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes, I think I'm a Maple Leafs fan, although I'm seriously pissed off that they can't make this a playoff to save their ass. And I hear about it
Yes, it's
because
very irritating.
my husband is a Detroit Red Wings diehard fan. Like back in the Yzerman era, he would go to pretty much every game with his dad. So he loves Yzerman, and that's all I hear. Well, the Maple Leafs haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1950, whatever. I don't know the actual year, but I mean, it's been a long time.
I think it was 67, I want to say. It was somewhere in the mid 60s.
Yeah. Well, so that's a hell of a long time. So
Really?
I said to him, well, it's not like the Red Wings have done anything better. He goes, well, it hasn't been 40 years. It's only been like 15 years or whatever it's been. So don't quote me on the timeline, but I do know that, yes, the Red Wings have won sooner than the Maple Leafs, but even still, they're out of the playoffs this year. So it's not like I tell him that, and he goes, "Well, they're rebuilding." I'm like, "How many years do they have to rebuild?"
Hmm.
But seriously, Toronto needs to do something different because it's now an embarrassment.
It really is. It really is. And I think there's a lot of controversy with Austin Matthews and the Olympics and the things that happened in that locker room that kind of affected their season this year. To be honest, I think they might need to look at a new team captain. Maybe not necessarily get rid of him, but
Yeah,
I think maybe a different captain might be what they need to get them going.
right. Yes, I agree. Even though he said, I don't know. And of course, it's true because I don't know if this is true, but I saw it on Facebook that someone said that they need to let him go. And he says, you know what? I'll retire first because he'll retire with Toronto. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, I don't know if that's true because not everything you see on Facebook is gospel. Uh,
Mhm.
but I'm just like, yeah, we need to do something different. He needs to go, and I don't know if that's why Tavares got so pissed off, and not Tavares, but that other one that they got rid of. Oh, what's his name?
Marner?
Yeah, Marner. I think that's why he probably left. I don't know. They're not driving. They don't trust each other. The team doesn't trust.
No, and that's the problem is right there. They need to trust each other, and I think a captain that they can trust to lead them is exactly what they need, and they clearly don't trust him
Right.
for whatever reason. I don't know what goes on in that locker room, but on the ice you can see it. They don't flow well together.
Yeah. Yeah. I never expected to say that on this show, but anyway.
Sorry.
No, I'm the one that started it. It was just like, but it's true. You can clearly see it, and I'm just, I'm fed up with our hockey team. Let's just put it
Yeah.
that way. You can win the Olympics, but you can't win here. You can't even get us to a playoff. So whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
you meshed with that team. So what's the difference with this team? You weren't the captain.
true enough. True enough. Didn't even think about that. So I won't switch teams just yet, but I'm certainly not happy with them. So I have to ask, you said romantasies? What is that? I'm
That's
curious.
a fantasy romance.
A fantasy romance.
Yeah.
So what happens in those?
So I love King Arthur and the Arthurian legends. And one of the books that got me onto that legend when I was in high school was Lady of the Lake by Marion Zimmer Bradley. And then I read that whole series, and I've been obsessed with King Arthur ever since, and I've read just about any King Arthur romance that I can get my hands on. And for a while, I had been wanting to write my own, and when I went to a Scottish festival in Kincardine with my aunt one year, um, I bought a notebook and I wrote pages and pages and pages and pages of this book with Guinevere as a time traveler. And I thought, no one's ever going to read this, but I can't get this story out of my head. And like every so often, I would come back to it and I would write more. But the research into it kind of bogged me down for a while. So I would do the research and then I'd get intimidated and I would stop. And it was this whole brutal cycle for years. And my mom actually had read what I'd written, and she's like, "You need to finish this. Like, this is probably one of the best things that you've written so far. You need to finish this. I need to know what happens." I'm like, okay. So like I came back at it after being away from it for years, and like it's completely different from what I originally wrote, but it still has Guinevere as a time traveler, and she is a princess in a dystopian future. It starts with her as a child because I needed to build this world that went dark, and that's pretty much all she knows, is that the world is dark, and all that exists that she knows of is her kingdom left in the entire world. And she's struggling with that and she's growing with that. And then she discovers that the humans aren't the only ones left. And I've got fauns, and I've got the fae, dragons, all kinds of beings in this book. And I was like, well, what if, because Arthur was the once and future king, which is why I started it in the future. Um, what if Lancelot is also there too, and he's immortal? And so I made him a fae, and he's her bodyguard. He remembers her from the past, but doesn't immediately connect that this is who she is in the future, and that he's with her again until much later in the book. And they've got this chemistry that just kind of builds throughout the book. Not until she's older, though. I gotta make that clear. It starts with her as a child, but she doesn't actually meet him until she's older. And he's
Wow.
her bodyguard, and he's trying to protect her. And it turns out that Arthur has been in an immortal sleep. I'm kind of giving a bit of a giveaway from the first book there. Um, but so he's also in the future, but then he's like, this needs to happen. Like, the world is falling apart. You're being challenged, but we need you to do this because we can't succeed unless you do, because neither of us would be here if you don't. And so she ends up traveling back in the past, and she ends up on Avalon, and then her and Arthur are kind of put together in the Pendragon Flame, and then she's kidnapped at the end of that book. And in Heart of the Forsaken, she is challenged yet again with the Darkling, who is half mortal, half fae, and he is the one that she believes is responsible for the darkness in her time and in Arthur's time. So he is the once and future darkness. he he is the opposite of Arthur.
Right. Wow.
So there's a lot going on in this series, and I've got to finish it now. Now she's at the end of Heart of the Forsaken. She's back in the future, and now we've come full cycle now, full circle.
Wow. There we go. That's, I have to say, I don't think I've read any of books like that. So, but that's
I
okay.
quite often hear that when I talk about my book.
Well, and it's funny because last year they had a bunch of like historical romances and things like that, where I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's not me. I don't want. But there is an audience for that. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like a huge audience for that. Because a lot of my friends are like, oh, you got to read that. I'm like, well, what genre? Historical romance? No, I'm good. Thank you. But I mean, there is a huge audience for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome. So how much because you said research in that, how much research does it generally take in order for you to write one of your books?
It depends on the book, actually. Sometimes I can just write and then, oh, I have to quickly Google something. But other times, like with the Phoenix and the Fae, because I've got the historical aspects of that there, I had to do quite a bit of research and research into different mythologies and things like that too. So it was like, um, so I've got a few years of research behind me in there. I don't know if it's necessarily reflected in the books, but it's there, I promise.
No, that's great because in my mind, and this is why I'm not a romance author yet, but I will be. In my
No.
mind, it's all fictional, so you could just make it up.
Yeah, absolutely. You can make it up as you go.
Make it up as you go, right? And that's why um, I made the mistake of making my first book nonfiction. So I'm like, no, wait, I'm going to do it even better and make it fiction and just embellish the shit out of some things that happened, so people won't even know who is what and what's really true.
Yeah.
Because and that way you can't get in trouble,
Then you've got creative license, so use the crap out of that.
right? Great, like yeah. But anyhow, live and learn. That is what I say. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously, if things like hockey, if you're going to do that, well, there's a skating rink. That things happen. They need pads. They need this. They need that. But if you can't, like, I mean, I'm just thinking out of my head, like, just truly taking it and whatever, like using your imagination. Um, and it's funny because I have a cousin that does a podcast, and she says she spends like a week researching different things before she has a podcast. I'm like, that would drive me crazy. Like
Absolutely.
I just want to know. I am more of like, I want to know the person. I want to know what drives them. I want to know, their story. I don't want to have to do like hours of research just to have a show with somebody. That's not what I want. And it's funny because somebody can send me like pages of a biography, and I'm like, I don't even read it because I want to know you. I don't want to know what you put on a sheet.
Hmm.
No. And so that's somebody's like, well, so you have so and so coming on. What do you know about them? Absolutely nothing. I'm going to be just as surprised as you because we're going to have a conversation and find out, right? Um, but anyways, that's just me. That's I don't want to be bogged down by research.
Research can end up actually backfiring on you and just boggling you and putting you into like one small little box too when you do too much of it. Or sometimes it can, yeah, stifle creativity.
Exactly. Exactly. So what do you do in your downtime
Downtime. What is downtime? Um,
besides write?
besides writing. So I do love to read. Um, and I love going to the movies. Spending time with my kids and my dog and my husband. We love to camp and hike and things like that. So I like to be outdoors. I also like to garden, which I didn't get to do much of last year, but this year I intend to do quite a bit of it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well,
I'm
thank
actually
you.
kind of a boring person.
No, you're not. I mean, your books are absolutely amazing. I mean, you
Well,
could
thank
tell the
you.
creativity that is in there. I mean, I wouldn't say that's boring. Um, it's it's funny. Yeah, I have this ideal life that I want, but jet setting everywhere. So in my mind, maybe that should be my first series. This jet set millionaire that has all this, that has this humongous kingdom. Um, you know, it's funny. You never know where your creativity will take you, that's for sure.
No, no, you don't. One thing though that my creativity I hope will take me one day is over to Scotland and England and Ireland. That's where my ancestry is, and I've been obsessed with them since I was a kid. I really want to go so bad. Haven't made it there yet, but one day I hope to.
That is funny that you said that. So my maiden name's Graham, and
Hmm.
so that is Scottish. We had a castle over in Scotland at one point,
Oh.
but it was. I have a picture of it. It's in my office, not in here. Um, I don't know how my uncle got a hold of it, but he did. But it's half in the ocean and half not. And I
Hmm.
know that my dad says, now I don't know how true this is. My dad said as a young teenager, he traveled to Scotland to give back the castle to the government because they owed like millions of dollars worth of back taxes.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
and so technically it's not ours, but the Grahams anymore. But it was half in the ocean back then. But I do have a beautiful picture of it. And in its heyday, it looked absolutely stunning. So it's funny that you said that because I would love to go and see it.
Yeah, I would
Or
love to
what's
see it. It
left.
sounds beautiful.
Yeah, what's left of it. Um, my husband's like, I don't want to go to Scotland. I've already been because he went I don't know how many years ago and played golf over there.
Hmm.
So he's like, oh, I've been there. I'm like, well, that's good. Then I'll go a girls trip. Then I don't care. Um, but I want to go see my castle.
Yeah.
I somebody said it was something about Dracula. I don't know if it was in the movie Dracula or something like that. I don't know. I had an old boyfriend a while, like way long time ago, that did some research on it when I told him about it, and then he took the picture because back then they used to put pictures on glass. Well, the
Hmm.
glass broke, and so the picture is kind of you could see what it is, but it's so old and so broken. So he photoshopped it because he was a photographer back then. And so he did some research on it. So, but that was so long ago, I don't even remember what the research was. I'll have to look it up. I don't know.
I discovered this past summer that my ancestors are from Clan McPherson. Um, my grandmother's maiden name was Gow, so I tracked it back to Clan McPherson, and I discovered that they missed Culloden. They
Mhm.
were the clan that showed up with the Bonnie Prince, but they were late and the battle had already happened. I'm like, well, that sounds like me because I'm late for everything.
Well, that is weird. My dad, okay, so my dad had the saying, if you're not 10 to 15 minutes early, you're late.
Oh,
Um,
jeez, that would drive me nuts.
And it's funny because that's generally how he raised us to be like that. So I'm very like I'm always early for everything. And then yeah, try dating. So once upon a time in my early 20s, I dated a guy that made me wait 3 hours. Three
Oh,
hours.
oh, jeez.
I am just like, this is not gonna work. Like this is just will not work.
I'm surprised you waited 3 hours. That's some
Well,
patience you've got there.
I at the time I was living in Chatham, Ontario, and he was living in Mississauga. So that is what a 2.5, 3 hour drive.
Yeah.
So I would drive up there. So I had no choice to wait, right? Because I would go up for the weekend. Um, and so yeah, I had no choice but to wait. I guess I could have turned around and come back home. But yeah. We've had many a conversation about that. And that's why we're just friends today. But
That's funny. My husband never did that to me, and when we met, I was at school in Peterborough. I was studying anthropology at Trent, and he lived in Wayne Gretzky's hometown of Brantford. And like I didn't have a car, so he was always commuting to me, and it's at least a 2.5 hour drive because you have to drive straight through the GTA, like right through the middle of it to get there. He never stood me up or made me wait or anything. We've been together now 20 years.
wow. Well, you got a good one
Every
there.
once in a while, I think so.
I have to say, the man I actually married does not make me wait. So there, but then again, every
He
relationship
puts
has,
up with me, so
right?
I'm the
I
one that's late for everything.
I like to say that we put up with each other because we
Yes.
all have our quirks, no matter what relationship that we're in, right? I think we all have quirks. And so it's just living with those quirks at the best that you can.
Hmm.
So, anyways, wow, I can't believe the time has like gone by so quickly. Uh, I just want to thank you so much for coming on, Francis. I
Thank you for
love
having
getting to
me.
know you more. Like I like to know the author. Like I love the works of the author, but I actually like to hear more about what makes them tick. So thank you for joining this crazy idea of mine that I had. Um, to start the second show. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been fun being. Oh my gosh. Words, they do not work sometimes.
Right? I get
It's
you.
been fun being here.
And where can people find you? Where's the best way?
Do you mean like online for my
Like
books?
online or yeah, if people wanted to reach out to you. I know you said on your books they can get you said was chapters or Amazon, you said?
Yeah, and they're also on Google Books and Apple Books and all those places. And then I'm on social media. I'm pretty much everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can just look up author Frances Everly, and I'm there.
She's there.
Or
Shazam.
author FD Everly because that's my Romantasy pen name.
Ooh.
Yeah, I decided it'd be easier for certain readers if I divided the two. So similar
Cool.
enough that you can connect that it's the same person, but different enough that you know it's different genres completely.
Oh, well, that okay. So that's why the front of your business card is like that, and the back, I just noticed it is different.
Yes.
I just noticed that.
Yeah. That is why it is a two-sided business card.
That is why. All right. Well, that is so cool. All right, guys, go get your copy of Packing Promises. I promise you that you will not regret it.
You'll have a
Um,
lot of fun.
You will have a lot of fun. Don't forget, though, once you're done to write your review for Francis, because that's what helps the author. I wrote my review and I will be doing a video review for it here
Oh,
shortly. I
thank
wanted to
you.
do the interview first. And then, yeah, we'll get that out. So go subscribe to our channel, the Between the Sheets channel. We would love if you would do that. Share with all your romance reader friends. Get Frances's name out there to everybody that you know. And just go enjoy her books. I promise you will not regret it. And come back next week. Bye for now.
Bye.